Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. Welcome to the Gospel Truth Channel. Thank you for being here. This is our Monday last stand, the last stand with Jay Campbell. Jay finishing up some other business. He'll be with us in just a couple minutes. That gives me a chance to talk to you a little bit about some, house cleaning issues. I'll be coming back to you later. Hello, Sandra. I'll be coming back to you later today with the big report on my visit to the Coral Castle yesterday. Unfortunately, the Coral Castle does not allow you to film at the Coral Castle. So I didn't know that, and I'm glad I did not know before going, because if I had known, I might not have gone. And I'm glad I did go. I did get a lot of good pictures. And just a little bit later tonight, I'll be doing a big show about Coral Castle. And in fact, we're going to do two shows about the Coral Castle. Number one, we're going to do a show tonight about the Coral Castle itself. And then we'll do a show about who started the Coral Castle and about Ed, who was the guy who started the Coral Castle. So that's coming up tonight. We'll have one show tonight about the Coral Castle. We'll have another one tomorrow. And I'll be going to other places, like going to the Georgia Guidestones here very soon as well. But today it's all about The Last Stand. And of course, Jay Campbell is our guest. I saw him just pop in. He must be having a little bit of connectivity issues. I saw him pop in and then pop out. And, that's how it is. It's scintillating live radio, as Scotty Roberts would say. But, sometimes you just got to roll with the punches, because sometimes things happen the way you think they're going to happen. And sometimes they just don't. But we had a good day yesterday. I drove all the way over to Coral Castle. It's about 5 hours. And then on the way back, I also stopped at the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. So I hope that you caught that little show I did from the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. I hope that you also caught the show that I did deep in the heart of Florida skunk ape territory there in the Florida Everglades. And then we had just a lot of good shows here recently. Unfortunately, being on the road, I missed the show with Wayne on Sunday morning and with Trisha Gelder on Sunday afternoon. But those are both definitely things that we continue to do. And we just didn't do them this week because I was on the road and happened to be on the road during the time that we could have actually been doing some shows. So, hey, that's just how things go sometimes. It doesn't always work out the way that you want it to. Yeah, that bridge collapse was back in 1980. Mario says that Jay and Rex are an amazing combo. Well, I hope that you'll get to like Jeff and Jay as well. And of course, Rex is amazing. Always glad to have Rex. A skunk ape is basically Florida's version of the Sasquatch. And it's our version of Bigfoot. So and I actually saw one back about 1980. And we're bringing Jay on live, Jay, so don't cuss or anything. And let me go ahead and get Jay in here. Come on now.
No audio.
You should be good to go, Jay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
I have no audio.
I can hear you perfectly.
You can't hear me. I can't hear you.
I can hear you.
All right, I'll be right back. Tell the audience I'll be right back.
We figured something was going on. No worries.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I hear you. No problem. Let me give him a chat here, folks, ladies and gentlemen.
It's like it's connected to something else. Hold on. Can you hear me now?
I hear you. No problem. I hear you. No problem.
I have no idea. I can hear you, but like it's so low. I'll be.
Scintillating live radio. But I got to tell you, folks, I am shocked at the lack of scholarship regarding the Coral Castle. I know we're going to do a show about this later, but it just blows my mind. Hey, Jennifer, how are you? The thing about Coral Castle, I went there. Sandra was there with her lovely daughter. And then I went back after they left. And it's just amazing to me. Everything I've heard about Coral Castle, just about everything I've heard about Coral Castle is wrong. And the scholarship, at least the scholarship and the teaching that I've heard about it, is almost totally vacuous. It's just silliness. And we hope to correct that over the next couple of shows. But we have a problem within the paranormal, within the alternative news type of arena. We tend to decide what we want to believe and then start finding facts to back it up, instead of going in objectively many times and learning what's going on and actually dealing with the facts. And man, I'm telling you, the facts that we don't have any facts about, or the facts that we think we have about the Coral Castle, aren't facts. They're just a wreck. So it's a mess. It really is. So we hope to clear some of that up. It was great to meet you and Sophia in person as well, Sandra. We really did appreciate you being there. And unfortunately that they could not give us, the right to film, but that's okay. We did get a lot of great pictures, and we will bring those to you, later on here today, and we'll certainly do it tomorrow and talk about the gentleman that ran that place.
I still have no audio.
No, you can't hear me?
Barely.
Okay.
Like just barely.
You're coming in fine for me, but you must have you're coming in fine for me, but
I have no idea what's going on.
Well, brother, sometimes it just doesn't work.
Well, got audio bugs. Huh.
Oh, sometimes it just doesn't work.
Your speaker or increase volume. My volume's all the way up.
Yeah. Well, I hear you just fine, so.
All right, what about now?
I hear you perfectly.
It's crazy. I can't hear you at all.
Wow.
Oh, there you go. What just happened?
Hear me now?
Yeah, what happened?
I didn't do anything. Something must have just popped on your end.
We're good. What's going on, Jeff?
Hey, brother, so you can hear me now.
Yeah, we sound perfect, man. Do I sound okay?
Yeah, you've sounded great from the beginning.
That's weird, man. Gremlins.
It always is. Heidi would tell us it's Mercury retrograde.
What's up, dude? Sorry about that, man.
No problem. That's scintillating live radio. That's how it goes.
That's exactly, man. We definitely both have faces for radio, right?
We definitely do. That's no doubt about that. That's exactly what this is all about. But hey, we still press on no matter what, right?
Absolutely, man. So what did I miss? What were you talking about?
I was just talking about, I went down to the Coral Castle yesterday down there in Homestead, south of Miami, where you were. Found out that I couldn't film down there, but took a lot of pictures. And it's just, you hear about these things. Coral Castle is one of those things that's talked about in the paranormal community a lot. And just about everything you hear about it is so poorly researched. It's amazing. I went down there and spent a couple hours, bought a couple books, and found out that just about everything I've heard about it's wrong.
Yeah. What was the guy's name? The Ed guy that built the Coral Castle. What was the guy's name?
He's got his last name's very hard to. He's from Latvia. It's right. Lateskellen or something like that.
Yeah. I read all about the Coral Castle many times. It's pretty amazing. They feel like it's the same technology, the resonant frequencies that probably built the pyramids and stuff like that too. Correct.
That's what the thought is. I'm not sure if I believe that or not after being down there, but he's definitely an interesting dude. I'm gonna do a couple of shows about that. Did you have anything that was on your mind for today?
I sent you an email. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the, Stephen Greer came out last night, I guess, and was talking about it, and then there was a story on George Norrie. Last week you probably saw it. I mean, all the AP and pretty much all the big fake news outlets were talking about how the CIA's had this, UFO announced programmer that they've been looking at it, and then I guess the guy that owns Bigelow Aerospace came out 6 months ago, if you remember too, and also had mentioned that, that they had been going to the back and forth and they had the alien tech for like 9 months.
Right. I actually did a show on that. That's got a ton of views, which I'm very thankful for. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So then last night, Greer came out, and everybody knows Greer in the alternative community. And I've actually met Stephen, and I don't really know what to think of him. Like when I meet him, he seems like a very honest, very forthright, very humble guy. I mean, obviously he's an ex-MD. You know, he went into the UFO disclosure, world 25 years ago. He did some amazing stuff, if you remember, in the early 90s when he got all those congressional leaders to go on record to say, hey, yeah, there's stuff going on. But I don't really know. But anyway, he came on his thing last night because I have a friend who's like very connected to him, and he forwarded it to me this morning, and now it's being reported. But he said that he thinks that Project Bluebeam, which we can discuss and talk about, is about to happen. So it would make sense that something like that would happen because we've obviously had now, I think in the last 3 weeks, the mainstream media has promoted, quote unquote UFO / conspiracy stuff as a truism. Like they're now pushing it out to the mainstream through the fake news airwaves that, this is a known thing in black circles, quote unquote, inside the government. So it seems like there's a little bit of a conditioning going on. What do you think?
Well, I just was looking in the chat room, and one of the folks in there, Jennifer, says they just had another big sighting out in Arizona. They had one just a couple of weeks ago. So there definitely is an increase in quote unquote UFO activity. And the fact that it might, and the assertion of Mr. Greer and kind of what you're saying, that perhaps it is all being put together and it's all being rolled out and it's all being planned. The things that we know from this government, from the control structures that we live under, certainly makes that a definite possibility.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like the article last night on George Norrie, I was looking at it just a minute ago. Let me just scan through it again real quick. So essentially the Pentagon has now revealed that there's a secret UFO research program. Big whoop, right? Like people like us know about this, but I mean, now they're slowly but surely, dropping it to the mainstream. And then again, you talked about it and we can maybe go back to that, but obviously the guy, Bigelow Aerospace, whatever, Bob Bigelow was on 60 Minutes, I guess, earlier this year, talking about where all the money, all the black project and research money has been going to, and that, they said they shut it down in 2012, but obviously he said, on his 60-minute appearance earlier this year that it wasn't, and that's where all the money's going. So it would appear, not to stay there, but it would appear that something is about to happen. I mean, obviously, and I always go to Twitter because I read a lot of these insider Twitter accounts about, Trump and his team, I guess, are, about to unseal a bunch of indictments. I mean, the latest word is that it's going to happen in early January. Nothing's going to happen right now. He wants to get the tax stuff done, and then they're going to start doing stuff. So you would think if a bunch of people are going to go on the run, they are going to unseal a bunch of indictments, a bunch of political leaders, that the cabal, the NWO, whoever it is, would try to do something to destabilize stuff. And I don't know what that would be, but it's weird that Stephen, Greer would come out last night and say, look, we're getting really, really close. So I don't know if maybe some of your readers or some of the people in your chat have heard anything. I mean, I don't really spend a lot of time like looking at this stuff, but I just thought it was fascinating. Saw that this
So Greer basically came out and said, start getting ready for a false flag, UFO related false flag type event.
He did. Now his book, or not his book and his movie. Yeah, same thing. His documentary. I actually went to the premiere screening in LA earlier this year with my wife, and I've met Stephen before and stuff. I talked to him, but there were a lot of people that went to it. It's a really amazing book. And by the way, guys, if you haven't watched it, it's on Netflix. Absolutely encourage everybody to watch it. It's about an hour and 26 minutes. I think an hour and 30 minutes about just everything that's gone on in the Black Project's research in the last 55, 60 years. It's incredibly well directed and produced. It's very good.
What's it called, Jay?
It's called Unacknowledged.
Okay.
It's really, really good. It's really, really good. But anyway, I guess he came out last night and the story in Unacknowledged is that, they talked for 15 minutes about Project Bluebeam. Project Bluebeam could be a number of things, but most people theorize it to be some sort of, like you called it, a false flag where they bring the third, the Antichrist / Jesus, whatever it is, in a format that, around the world that depending on where you're at. So if you're in the United States,
like holographic type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be like a Jesus Christ, figure. Whereas if it's in China, it'll be the Buddha, if it'll be in India, it'll be, yeah. So they say that they have
so culture specific.
It'll be culture specific. So, but I mean, no one really knows. I mean, obviously, if you go back to, Werner von Braun, and they have parts of like when he was interviewed, the woman that did his memoirs and stuff like that, also talks about like he on his deathbed, he cackled. He said, first it was it was us. And then it was, I forget, them. And then ultimately it would be, the fake alien invasion or the fake false flag or the Antichrist coming. So, I mean, all of this has been documented, in conspiracy lore for decades. But again, like I said, it's just kind of weird that this story would publish on all the mainstream last week. And then all of a sudden for Greer to be saying, hey, it's coming too. So I don't know. I'm starting to think that my spidey senses are tingling a little bit.
So you're starting to have some intuitive questions about Mr. Greer, it sounds like.
A lot of people think he is controlled. But I don't know. It's hard when I meet him and I'm standing in his physical presence to feel like he's really a bad person.
Gotcha.
I don't sense that he is, but it's, you never know with some of these people. I do believe that Tom DeLonge, the ex lead singer of, what's the name of his group, but he's the guy that's all big now involved in the, alien abduction and the UFO. And he's got like a bunch of like people and ex-military people. I forget, what's the name of this group? He's like the famous rock musician.
I know you're talking about. I don't remember.
Yeah, he's all into this now and stuff like that. I believe he's totally controlled because he's involved with what's his name? Hillary's, the guy that's the head of the Pizzagate, Podesta.
Podesta, yeah.
Yeah, John Podesta and him are boys. So I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah, it's hard to believe anything good could come out of that.
No,
well, it's interesting. I found something that I wanted to share with you, and it's very interesting in view of you bringing this up, because I didn't know that you were going to bring this up. So let me bring this up and show you what I'm talking about. And it goes back to, some of the things that we talk about, but it's interesting what it's tied into. And the thing that really caught my eye and made me think about it was this right here. It says, and this is Paul. And of course, Paul basically started his own religion. His religion, in my view, after 36 years of learning and 100,000 hours in the Bible, 20 years as a preacher and Bible college graduate, is that Paul started a religion that is in competition with the religion that the Christ started.
Right.
And as we talk about this and think about this, Paul wrote that bodily exercise profits a little, but godliness is profitable unto all things, having a promise of the life that is now and that which is to come. And what Paul's actually saying here is, yeah, you know what, being in good shape, exercising, that does a little bit. But what you really need to do is get tuned into all my teaching, get tuned into all my indoctrination, get tuned into all my doctrine. And I find it very interesting that Paul, he goes out of his way. And let me figure out how to get the hell out of this again. It's just weird. We got all these gremlin things going on because my computer doesn't want to work either. So it's just, it's very irritating actually, but what are you going to do?
Right.
And I'm trying to get back to where I can see you, but it's interesting to me that Paul talks about how that, he's trying to keep people from having a desire to be involved in keeping themselves physically fit, almost saying, yeah, you can be in shape if you want to, but who really cares? And if you look at the Greek, the implication's almost that you're not spiritual. If you're trying to, say, I can't even stop the share. You're not spiritual if you are actually trying to keep yourself fit. So I'm starting to ask, why in the world would they want to keep us in a situation where we're not fit, where we're not in shape? And if you think about it and carry it through, it becomes pretty obvious that the reason they don't want us in shape is because when we're in shape, we're more able to, mentally process things. When we're in shape, we're more able to spiritually process things. And when we're in shape, we're also more able to defend ourselves physically. And it's interesting, Jay, one thing I learned in Bible college that I can use is that a text without a context is a pretext. So we look at this verse. What's the context of this verse? Well, if you go back up here, warnings against false teachers. The Spirit talks expressly that in the last days, some are going to depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits, doctrines of devils. And one of these doctrines of devils that Paul's talking about is keeping yourself in good shape. So who are the people talking about getting yourself in good shape? Doctrines of devils and false teaching is not what we think it is. It's people like us coming out against Paul's false agenda. So they're trying to paint us as the people that are the problem. They're trying to paint the people that are talking about freedom and liberty and self-expression, divinity, freedom, sovereignty. We're the ones that they're calling the seducing spirits. We're the ones they're talking about that have the doctrines of the devils, like trying to keep yourself in good shape so you don't make that well of a slave. You're not that easy to assimilate. So Jay, talking about this whole idea of, showing this false flag or whatever, it all ties together. And part of it, ladies and gentlemen, is being in good condition. And Jay, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you really think a person can be fully awake or fully woke, as we say, if they're morbidly obese?
It's kind of hard. I mean, there's, outliers for everything. There's never an absolute anything is possible in this crazy three-dimensional reality we exist in. But no, it would be, for me, it's kind of hard. I don't feel like if you're physically so incapacitated, so blocked, from an energy center standpoint, from a chakra standpoint, that you could truly be like, able to hear or to, do all the other things. That doesn't mean, again, there's not exceptions to the rule. But you're so preoccupied when you're really that, obese, when you're that physically, handicapped, from all the other standards. It's really, really hard to not be suffering in some capacity or not be thinking about like eating or, you're being overwhelmed. Your senses are being overwhelmed when you're in such poor health. I mean, you really are. You can't function normally.
I agree with you 100%. And I'm sitting here flying blind now because, you couldn't hear at the beginning, and now I can't get back to where we are. So I don't know what the people are seeing on the screen, but yeah. And I think it really is, there's no doubt about it. And we're fighting a battle, and most of us don't even know that we're in this battle. Most of us don't even know that we're in this war. And I don't know that a lot of people even care, Jay.
No, I mean, we talk about this all the time. I mean, the average person is so preoccupied with just paying their bills that they really don't have time to really, quote unquote, pontificate about like big picture stuff and, what your mission is, embracing your mission or finding your mission. As you and I talked last week, the average person just doesn't have to even ask themselves the question. I mean, the question isn't even a concern. I mean, your life is so preoccupied with survival, and that's really where they want us. I mean, the whole key of the elites, the control structure, the grid, the matrix, whatever you want to call it, is to just keep us disunified, completely decentralized. Nobody can, there's no group harmony. There's no group love. There's everything is just so stratified and so divided that's how the power structure, stays in play. I mean, that literally is how the power structure is maintained, the division, races, politics, religions, economics. I mean, everything is about stratification and division. And that's literally how they keep us, in power. I mean, it goes back to the Tower of Babel moment. I mean, the whole language, the whole etymology, the root of languages, how we can't understand one another. I mean, all of it is just to keep us divided. It's the whole, I always go back to the political structure of America, divide and conquer. You have left and right, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal. It's all nonsense. It's completely created so that we stay disjointed and not united. And that's how we exist.
It totally is. There's no doubt about it. You're 100% right. And I'm sorry, I'm distracted because I still can't get this damn thing. I have no idea. I think I'm sharing my screen and nobody sees anything, but
I see the Christian whistleblower.
Yeah, for some reason I can't. It's totally where I can't even control it. I don't even know how I'm going to end the program when it's that time. But Jay, how did you? I mean, you're a guy that professional sports, big time real estate. What happened to you that made you sit up and realize that there was more to it than just the physical world that we're in?
So, I mean, I've always been a seeker. My story is very similar. I wasn't obviously in organized religion. My father came from organized religion. My dad was going to be at one time he went to divinity school, but he dropped out and he thought he was going to be a priest. So I have kind of like a background where, and my mom and dad were very like devout, rigid Catholics. But like when I was like 7 or 8 years old, I don't remember. I ran out of the back of Catholic mass and was like, that was it. I'm done. So I've always been like questioning things, doubting things, reading whatever I could get voraciously about alternative realities, the search for mankind's ancestry, just different esoteric topics and stuff.
So even as a kid, you were kind of into this stuff?
Oh yeah, dude. I was reading this stuff like even as a kid, like, people thought I was crazy. I mean, I read Chariot of the Gods when I was 8 years old.
No kidding.
On Downican. Yeah. So, I mean, I was always into this, but as far as like my true awakening, where I feel like I got out of the ego mindset and got out of the slave, money magic system. I mean, obviously I'm still in it. I still, function in it. I have kids, a wife, businesses, blah, 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 but it's not my priority. It's not a hierarchy. It happened, Jeff, after I hit rock bottom.
After you hit rock bottom?
When I hit rock bottom. Yeah. So,
Interesting.
I mean, I'm trying to think, I was 40 and my ex-wife, had just put me in jail, kidnapped my kids. And so that's when I really started to like, do a re-examination of who I was as a human being, and figure out, what I wanted. And, I met my current wife, and, the rest is history. I figured out what my mission was. I wrote the book on testosterone. I got into the optimization space. And I realized that I could help people, in that way, much more so than, the economic world that I was, because I was like a high level sales guy, an internet marketer, blah, blah, blah. And I still do that, but, now my real mission in life is writing books and consulting with people and, pushing all the things that we do in the optimization space. There you go. You got us back. Woo-hoo! But yeah, I mean, I really think that it's only been in the last 3 or 4 years that I really have got woke, and that I've realized that there's just so much more in the quantum world than what we see here in the physical reality that, we
So let me ask you this then. Can being in hyper physical shape be a block to spirituality?
No. I mean, I think anything, again, there's no finite, truisms. I mean, anything is possible. There's outliers everywhere. But I think, I believe, I think I said this to you last week when I have conversations with some of the guys I mentor. I feel that once you stop fearing death and you have no fear of death, and you understand that, what they teach us from a structured religion standpoint is nonsense, is not real true spirituality. And again, I do believe you have to pursue knowledge. You do have to read at a high level. You have to read great esoteric wisdom teachers like Manly Hall, or you should. And there's others. I'm just naming him right now. But that will tell you that reincarnation and living many times and many lives with your soul, and also spirituality, is just, there's so many brilliant minds that have written about this. And it goes so far beyond most of the normal paradigm construct that we learn, especially in religion, especially Abrahamic religions, with the Redeemer complex and all the nonsense, that you just start to recognize that this is all BS. And when you fully realize that and comprehend that it's all BS, and then you know that what you've been taught in the Abrahamic constructs is BS, then you don't have a fear of death. And I still believe that 90% of people in society fear death. I mean, I talk to very successful people that I know, Jeff, and they always talk to me that it goes back to like, oh, my time's limited. They have like these like existential crisis moments where they feel like, I could die tomorrow, and all is for naught. And when you're limited and constrained by that mindset and that thought process, it's just my opinion right now, but when you're limited by that, you can't truly express your greatness to the world, whatever that is. Like, we talked about that last week. Everyone has something that they're great at, but not everyone finds it.
And you think that being afraid of death has a big part of that?
I think it's everything. I think that fearing death,
more motivated. If you're afraid of dying, why wouldn't you be even more motivated to figure out what your purpose is and try to get it done before that event happens?
Because fear is paralyzing.
Fear is paralyzing.
Most people who are in fear can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like,
I've always
literally,
believed, Jay, that fear and faith are mutually exclusive.
I agree with that. I actually 100% agree with that. You can have both, but I just think that most people are so afraid of, offending somebody or doing the wrong thing or failing, at their job, or, insert 100,000 different things, that it becomes so preoccupied, that a lot of what ends up happening is they worry, and they spend half their life worrying about stuff that never even materializes.
Yeah.
Right.
It's fascinating. And Jay, how involved are you with your books and stuff? You're still, I would think, heavily involved in the fitness community, right?
I am. I mean, like this next book, when it launches on January 15th, is so big. I have a huge PR company promoting it. It's going to be over 400 pages, almost 700 research citations. It's literally the Bible on hormone optimization therapy, not just for men, but also for women. We only have one chapter in there for women, but it's written at an extremely high level. And it's going to lead to a book next year with a physician and my wife, who are writing it, that will be like a book similar to this Bible. And yeah, it's opened a lot of doors. I mean, the first testosterone optimization therapy book was called the Definitive TRT Manual, which now we've changed the acronym from TRT to TOT. When it was written in 2015, is really kind of been my trademark, or my calling card, my business card in the author space, because it's the #1 selling book in that world of all time. And then, to be a non-medical practitioner, to be a layperson, in that world, has really opened a million doors for me, in meeting, very high level physicians and researchers and stuff like that. So this book had 6 doctors helping me with it. So it's, like I said, state of the science. And these doctors are the best doctors in the world, literally, in this niche, in this genre. So, and that space is changing so much because, as you and I talked about on our first show, healthcare is sick care. There's no healthcare. Right. It's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
There's no healthcare. So I'm kind of like one of the faces, thankfully blessed, totally blessed, along with these other people, to be, a change maker, like a literal change maker in the optimization space. And that's how we refer it to now, as like optimization, because Jeff, I always say this, I do a lot of podcasts with a lot of different people, but nobody is going to ensure that you're going to have good health except you. Literally nobody.
Jay, what's the woke quotient among the elite fitness people?
It's actually pretty high. I would say probably 30%, 25 to 30%. But
and the general population is what, 2-3% maybe?
No, I think it's 5. I mean, what I was going to say to you is, like, the actual percent and the people that admit it are separate too. Gotcha. So I believe when I say the woke, when I say the fitness community is 30, I bet you 15 admit it. Because a lot of people that know me think that I'm crazy to be having the Decoders of Truth, to be talking to you, to go on shows with Rex, to do what I do. Because they're like, dude, you're like so big, and like, why would you do that? I'm like, well, I don't give a shit what they think. Mm-hmm. It's who I am. I'm not hiding behind.
Oh no, your audio just cut out.
What about now?
Now you're back.
Gremlins, they're here. It's Rex.
They are here.
Rex, I know you're watching, Rex. I know you're doing this. But no, Jeff, I put a section in this book on spiritual fitness, as I've told you. I think I sent it to you. It's really good. And a lot of people are going to be reading through this book, doctors, researchers, A-listers, and they're going to be like, what the hell is this? Because I left it in chapter 16. But it's because it's towards the end of the book and there's 21 chapters, but I mean, it's really deep. And I go really down the rabbit hole talking about visualization and meditation and chakra alignment. And I talk a lot, man. I go really, really deep in stuff, and it's good. I mean, I've had help, a lot of help with editing it and stuff like that. It's probably some of my best work, but I mean, people are going to see that and they're gonna be like, what the hell is this guy? And then, I even say in the book, I say, look, if this is interesting to you, if it's not interesting to you, you're already not reading this. So, skip ahead and, enjoy the rest of the book. But if you are, then I push them right down the whole funnel into the Decoders of Truth. I mentioned you. It's just like, it's all right there. So it's like,
thank you for that. Jay, question in the chat room. Yeah. And I'll just say as it's stated, Liv asked, do you have testosterone for women?
Yes. So with
Explain,
women,
talk to us about that. How does testosterone affect women? You think that's just a dude thing?
no, it's not at all. So, I always say this, the easiest way is like, think about when women transition to become men. What do they do?
Don't
Right?
think about Caitlin right now.
They take testosterone. Okay.
Ah,
Just as a man transitions to be a woman, he has to go on estrogen therapy. So he increases the estrogen content. So what most people don't understand is biological system wise, the only differentiation between men and women literally is the testosterone levels. So somewhere in the embryo, in the zygote, when we're born, before we differentiate between male and female, we're just like this swimmer. The sexual differentiation happens, inside the ovum, and that's when you figure out, like, or that's when a man and a woman differentiate, and a woman gets more testosterone, more estrogen, and a man gets more testosterone.
Jay, is that random, or is there some spiritual component that releases the testosterone or the estrogen, or is it just a crapshoot?
That's $1 million question, dude.
Isn't it?
That's a whole nother world to go down. I know you and I think the same thing, right? We descended from the great, whatever, source, creator of all, God, the Elohim's master. Whatever you want to call what we come from, but we know from very, very intelligent, incredible teachers, theologians, researchers, whatever, that we were a pole. We were a single pole. The male and female, the divine masculine, divine feminine was together, and then we differentiated.
And Jay, it even says that in the Holy Scriptures, both the Bible and others. It says that the Elohim were male and female. They were both. Yes. And even people argue that when we're in the womb, initially we are both or neither, but there's not one or the other. It's a duality really from the beginning.
Yeah,
Just
it is
fascinating stuff.
No, it really really is. And that's where it gets so crazy, because as you and I have talked about on the show now, we have a control mechanism on this planet of pushing people back to this androgynous, non-identified sexual, characteristics. Like people, you see it all the time. You see these people walking around the street. You don't even know if they're a man or a woman. So it's getting really weird that they're having this like transhumanistic, androgynous movement of like getting rid of masculine and feminine. But
yep.
I think from a purity standpoint, if this is truly, as Pinella says, as you say, this is kind of like a playground for matter form when we come here, out of the pure aether or spirit form. Why would you not want to differentiate? It doesn't make sense. That's what the whole fun of sex and procreation and coitus and all that stuff is.
And Kent's talking about here, Jay, that the meat and stuff that we're eating, especially if we're going through the drive-throughs, are pumped full of hormones. It's also screwing everything up.
Yeah, that's my chief argument, or kind of my overarching argument in my books now, that if you really want to master your health and you're living in a large, overpopulated, dense urban place, coastal population center, there's no way to escape the harm that we've done to the environment. There's no way to organically maintain a sense of physical health if you live in LA, you live in Houston, Dallas, Miami, New York, Seattle. There's, San Francisco. There's no way. We have literally demolished the environment, right? I have studies in my book talking about sperm, right? You and I have talked about that. We know that males are going to be wholly infertile at the current rate by 2030, 35.
Cryptic thinkers in here talking about testosterone for teenage males because their teenage stepson, yes, is like super estrogen heavy from diet. And Jay, we're talking about teenagers needing testosterone therapy. The only testosterone therapy we needed was, how do you tone this shit down?
Yeah, I know, dude. It's truly mind-boggling when I have these conversations with thought leaders and doctors who see this, because when a 16 or 17-year-old boy comes in and he has a high-pitched voice, and they test him and he has like the testosterone level of, 100-year-old, or some of them even have it below 100 where it doesn't register. You know, it's like off the radar from a total testosterone measurement level. So it's like, what do you do? Because in current established medical protocols, you can't really give them testosterone without putting risk. You can, but you better, you know, document everything you're doing so that the AMA doesn't come after you. I mean, it's really a shame.
Right. How does a teenage boy get in this condition, Jay, from your study?
It's honestly, it's multifactorial, but most of it is from a lack of exercise, a horrific, you know, boxed food, GMO engineered food diet. If their mom was on birth control before she got pregnant, I mean, there's so many hosts of, you know, what we call epigenetic factors that are influencing this hormonal deluge. I mean, and then Jim, you know, I mean, if I can go deeper, you know, right. I mean, the truth is, and I say this in a lot of stuff, and I'm very outspoken about this, all disease is epigenetic. Okay. All disease is metabolic. They didn't have cancer in the 1800s, 1900s. They didn't have that in the early 1900s. Cancer, this is man-made. This is from people overcooking meat. Most people don't know this. When you eat meat that's not rare or medium rare, as soon as you go beyond medium rare on a meat, especially red meat, you're denatured the protein. When you denature the protein and you eat it, it's carcinogenic. That is a statistical fact. Most people have no idea. The average doctor doesn't understand that, right? So if you eat a lot of overcooked red meat, you are bombarding your system with carcinogens. The likelihood of you getting cancer is extremely high at some stage of your life, right? So
fascinating.
Yeah. So I mean, again, like most people live in modern day societies. Modern day societies is a full frontal assault on us from every level. Drinking out of these, microwaving our food, going through the drive-through, drinking out of straws, sitting in cars that are sitting in, you know.
Wait a minute, Jay, drinking out of straws. Talk to me about that.
Same thing, man. Plastic. I mean, look at the stuff that's the carbonol, the stuff that laces the straws. I mean, there's no escaping it, dude. There's no escaping it.
It's funny, when I was doing comedy, I didn't know I was helping people out, but I used to do stand-up comedy, and one day there was a guy right up next to the stage and the lights were still on him, and he had some kind of a drink of vodka tonic or something, and he went up and started drinking through the little straw. And I'm like, careful, sir. A lot of guys get started that way. Exactly. And I didn't realize, I was, you know, obviously making a silly gay joke, but drinking through straws, drinking through that plastic can be deleterious to us, huh?
Of course. I mean,
wow.
So my whole the crux of my argument of like why people have to be on top of optimizing the hormones, it doesn't automatically mean you have to use testosterone if you're a male or women. But back to the original question, yes, women use testosterone. Okay. Most women use a base of progesterone, testosterone, some estrogen. There's a combination. The highest level physicians, which I'm connected to one, Dr. Jim Meehan, by the way, listens to your show in Tulsa, Oklahoma, brilliant guy. He's in the Dakotas of Truth. Very open, outspoken guy, total leader in the community around the world for health and education from a medical standpoint. Brilliant doctor. He has like a cream that he has created that has it's like a multifactorial. It has test, a little bit of testosterone, a little bit of estrogen, a little bit of progesterone, and he knows how to like make it polyphasic so that it's used over a 30-day women's hormone cycle. So it's essentially based on their menses. So it's very advanced. There's very, very advanced structured hormone delivery systems out there now with guys like that. Now, obviously, there's still the cream de la creme. You're not going to go to your average, you know, quack doctor, general practitioner in the middle of the, you know, anywhere in America and have access to that kind of stuff. But it's coming. And that's kind of where I'm at. You know, I'm in the forefront with a lot of these guys so that we get this out there to the mainstream so that people can have access to this. But yeah, dude, like, you have to take a fully centered, fully, like I call it, optimized approach with your life. I mean, you have to get your blood work done. You have to see what's going on inside your system. You need to understand how to read your blood work. It's very simple. Most people get all afraid. They're like, oh my God, you know, this blood work got sent to me. I'm looking at it. It's like, you know, reading hieroglyphics. But I mean, go on YouTube. I mean, I've got 100 videos. You can Google me all over, and we show people how to read their blood work. I mean, it takes like 1 or 2 times looking at it.
Yep.
But that's more productive than going to the doctor and saying, Doc, I need a physical and a workup. because you're going to get nothing back. You're not going to get any explanation. They're going to be like, well, why would I order that for you? Are you sick? Something wrong? And you're like, no, I want to just optimize my health. I want to look and see what's going on under the hood. I want to see how good I'm in. I want to live another 40 years, Doc. Can you help me? And they'll just look at you with a blank stare.
Crazy. There's a lot of discussion about this in the chat room. So just let me show really quickly. If you do want to get one of these Mistech bands, I have a partnership with them. Go to my website, jeffreydarty.com, click on the logo, find out all about it. You can go over here and look at these things and decide which one you like, which ones you want. And if you want a 20% discount, and if you want to help me out, go back over here, put in your name, put in your email, put in Mistech, tell me which one you want. I'll invoice you through my PayPal. You get a full 20% off, and you help me be able to keep going to these places and doing these things, and you get yourself a great product. That's my shameless plug. Sorry about that, Jay.
No, it's good, man. It's all good. It's all good. I have many shameless plugs I could launch at the folks. I mean, obviously, since I started with you, dude, I've had so many people reach out to me, and it makes me, it makes my heart sing with joy.
Oh, isn't that great?
But my offer is always open to you guys. If you're watching Jeff's show, please obviously continue to support him. But email me. It's just jay@trtrevolution.com, and I'm happy to send you my books. I have 2 in PDF form right now. The third one will be in PDF hopefully within 2 weeks. That book is going to be, I believe, a very big international bestseller for a long time. But I'm happy to send it to you guys for free. Just say, hey, you heard me on the Jeff Doherty Show.
Yeah. And Don, you will not find out how the bands are charged. It's proprietary information. They're not going to tell you how they do it. They're not going to tell you what they do. But they do it. It works. And some people say, well, I'm not going to use them then if I don't understand it. Well, let me ask you a question. When you go home at night and the house is dark, you may not understand everything about electricity. You're not an electrical engineer, but that doesn't stop you from flipping the switch. Now, does it? You want the benefits of the electricity. You don't have to know everything about electricity. So get a hold of these. I think they're very profound. They work great. And go through our site, get 20% off. But Jay, sometimes it can get overwhelming. It can almost make people just throw their hands up and say, I quit. I can't figure out how to do this. Everything's stacked against me. Why don't I just drop back 10 yards and punt and forget about it? What keeps people from quitting?
30, Jeff.
Yeah.
Help. I mean, it's tough, man. I mean, I wanted to, one of the things I wanted to do on the show, because I know it's right around the holidays, so I think it's a perfect time, because people are always looking for strategies like how to survive around the holidays, right? Because it's almost impossible to eat healthy.
And somebody's asking, what's your favorite tasty, healthy meal as well?
It's a good question. My favorite tasty meal.
Healthy meal.
Yeah, no, I think both of them are probably good. Tasty, healthy. Healthy for me is eating grass-fed beef with lentils or brown rice. I love to cook up. That's like a staple for us. We cook up grass-fed beef on Sunday. Sometimes I hire a college kid. And she's pretty regular now. Well, she'll come over, we'll pay her like $20 or $30 and she'll make up a whole week's worth of food for us. Right. And my staple meal is grass-fed beef and either lentils or brown rice mixed in a bowl. So what
do you say to the people that are trying to avoid carbs when you're talking about the brown rice and the lentils?
So they're very low. I mean, obviously that you're talking about really low glycemic carbohydrates, not as starchy. They're, if you understand what the glycemic index means, that means that it's the insulin signal from eating it is very low versus if you ate, sugar, from a piece of white bread or something like that.
Or macaroni and cheese or something like that.
Yeah, pasta, exactly. So it's still a very blunted insulin response, but depending on how much body fat you have to lose. If you're a person, and again, no offense to anyone, but if you're a person that has a significant amount of body fat, you should not be eating a lot of carbs. You should be eating a lot of green vegetables, a lot of clean, high essential fatty acid protein like fish, ground turkey, grass-fed beef. That's kind of what you should be eating. And obviously, hopefully you have some form of good exercise and cardiovascular. In addition to weight training, you should also be doing some form of cardio. But
there's people talking in the chat room today, even saying, Jeff, you're looking so much thinner and all that. And I have basically, and I thank you for that, I've basically cut out carbs almost totally. And that's why I've had this, part of the reason I've had this kind of accelerated loss. Plus I'm doing the metabolic blowtorch and the Forge Fitness, and it's just kicking my butt in a good way. It's amazing to me, Jay. It's only been like a month, 6 weeks, and it's amazing how quickly my body is responding, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's Jim's a witch, man. Hopefully you guys will get a chance to hang out pretty soon. But yeah, he definitely understands muscle building and changing a person's physique in the fastest way possible. And it's definitely, the way his protocols are based for anybody, right? Because anybody.
Metabolic Blowtorch is one of Jay's books. You can get it just for the shipping, or if you email him, he'll send you a PDF of it for free. Correct, Jay?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, you can actually. If you
Somebody says that I have a chin now, so I rediscovered my chin, Jay.
That's awesome, man. If you guys go to metabolicblowtorchdiet.com and you live in North America, we'll send you the book for free. Just pay shipping. That's a paperback. But again, if you want to just email me, I'm happy to send you the PDF for free.
Absolutely, and it works. And let me tell you that the Forge Fitness that Jay's also involved in, that is not easy at all. But it's transformational. And I was a guy that was a bodybuilder, was into, I knew how to get big. I knew how to, to get strong, but this is a total, it's almost a total new paradigm in muscle building.
It's an inversion of what is accepted in science.
It is.
And honestly, like, to give credit to a lot of the guys that, architected fitness and quote unquote hypertrophy and bodybuilding programs earlier, they just didn't have access to the science that we have now today. 25 years ago, they couldn't see, like, from a molecular cellular level, what was happening to muscle fibers, under intense trauma and, micro traumas, so when you're breaking and tearing fibers from training, from lifting, and you can see that now. So they've learned that, there's various energy systems in the human body that are being activated when you're lifting weights. So Jim's, training program, and again, it's called Advanced Forged Training. You can go to advancedforgedtraining.com. I think it's, $90 or something.
And that's Forge, Forge, right?
Correct. Forged. Correct. Advanced.
I think it's $97. It's the best $100.
Yeah, I don't even know what it is. I mean, there's, like, sometimes if you're playing around on the web and they start cooking you, I think they can offer to you for $67, but I don't know how to get it like that. They just send you an email, I think. But yeah, so
Jay,
I mean,
do you have any help for people? Or number one, do you correlate dairy to diabetes?
Mostly, yes. Diabetes is based on your insulin. So what happens is you have cells in your pancreas that fail. Okay. They're basically called chemoreceptors. So what ends up happening is if you eat a diet that's like high in refined sugar, high in dairy, high in fat, and you're not active, you're not building muscle most of your life, usually to about 40 to 45, and you get to a point where you're obese, normally your chemoreceptors fail in your pancreas. Now that doesn't mean that you have to go on insulin, but most people do. That's what happens. They become type 2 diabetic, and then they have to start taking shots. Okay. But you can reduce your carbohydrate intake dramatically, like you have, if not, completely. So you're only eating green vegetables, or salads or something like that. And, you won't get your chemoreceptors to ever function like they would have when you were 20, but you can get them to function better so that you don't have to take insulin, so that you don't have type 2 diabetes. But yeah, I mean, it's hard because we don't teach in our grade schools, nor do we teach in our high schools, nor do we even teach in medical school about nutrition. People don't understand insulin sensitivity. One of the things that are coming up in my next book, we have an actual chapter on, it's actually called The Value of Insulin Controlled Living and Why It's Essential. And it's a very deep dive on understanding what you should be eating as you age to avoid the diseases of aging. And that's where people get so confused. People get so confused because they don't understand the type of carbohydrates. You get a lot of people, like, they'll come to you and they'll say, well, I'm eating a lot of fruit. That's great. It's natural, right? It's, on trees and stuff. And it's like, well, not if you're fat, because fruit is fructose. It's fruit sugar.
It's going to make you fat. And people don't get that. I used to love bananas, Jay.
Right.
And it's so healthy. I'm eating bananas. I'm eating a lot of bananas. They're so healthy. Yeah, but they're also packed with carbs.
Packed, absolutely packed. And very, as you know, very fast burning carbohydrates. So it's like smashing your insulin. Boom. It's like causing a massive spike.
Here's another question, Jay. What about somebody that's on the other end of the spectrum that needs to gain some healthy weight?
I mean, again, you got to eat. I mean, most people that can't put on muscle or put on size, they don't eat enough food. You know, you hear that in the community all the time that, oh, I'm a hard gainer, I can't add weight. Well, it's, you know, if I follow that person around for 2 days, I'll find out they're not eating very much. Now, some people have poor metabolism. Some poor people have really, you know, inefficient metabolic health. So it's hard for them to digest food. And so those are the type of people that are normally like really small, thin boned, really tiny, wispy type body shapes. And it's because their bodies just are not designed to handle a lot of food consumption. So it's not a bad thing. You're never going to you're never going to be dying of a disease of aging, but you're not going to be a muscular, bigger person most likely because you just can't process the calories efficiently enough.
So sometimes there's just a physiological limit on your body.
Absolutely. And you know, most fat people, I mean, it's sad because like I always say this, it's like you're not born fat.
Right.
I mean, yes, we have 3 different body types. We have naturally skinny, which are called ectomorphic, which are the type you were just talking about. And then there's like the muscle people naturally, and they're called mesomorphs. And then you have like, which is most people, which is endomorphic, which is your slow twitch muscle fibers, and you have a slow metabolism. So if you don't eat right all the time, you're going to be chunky.
Right.
And if you eat shitty, you're going to be fat. Which is
people talk about being big boned. I don't know about that, Jay. I never seen a fat skeleton.
No, I mean, that's just a statement that people make about themselves because they've, you know, been bigger, huskier, chunkier since early in their life. But it's just a product of diet. It is. It's definitely a product of diet, not eating right.
Interesting. So if you're a person that needs to gain some weight, I mean, you can try to eat more, but it just may be a product of your body type.
Well, just lift. I mean, you got to lift. I mean, if you're a small person naturally and you struggle to, you know, pound down calories, you got to increase your body's metabolic rate. I mean, and you're going to increase your body's metabolic rate by lifting and building muscle. The more muscle you build by training intensely, the more hungry you're going to be, the more food your body will be able to process.
And the more on the other end, if you're trying to lose weight, if you build up healthy muscle, that really burns up a lot of calories.
Yeah, exactly. And people don't realize that, you know, you're replacing the muscle. So, I mean, your body fat, you can't be focused, again, depending on who you are and stuff and where you're at, but people should never focus on the scale, because if you do it right, you're going to build muscle while you're losing fat. So the scale weight won't deviate very much, but the way you want to evaluate your results is based on how your clothes fit.
And the mirror, look at the mirror, not the scale.
Exactly.
What does Jay say for being vegan or vegetarian?
I think vegan is amazing. I think that vegan is a conscious choice. I don't, you know, there's one thing I will say, you know, we have this in all our books. We always write about vegans. There's great, incredibly intense new protein matrices available now. Like you can get pea protein and hemp protein, and they have all of the amino acid spectrum that you need from an animal protein. Well, not all, but close. So you can definitely maintain a very strong physique by not eating animal protein, provided that you supplement with those hemp and pea protein sources. And you can go to, you know, one place, one of my good buddies owns truenutrition.com. And he's based out of San Diego, and he's actually a huge retailer or reseller to a lot of the supplement companies, but buy it direct from him. It's called truenutrition.com. They have an amazing pea and hemp protein.
Well, isn't Nate Diaz a vegan? The MMA guy that beat.
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys. There's even bodybuilders. There's a couple pro bodybuilders that are vegans. The only thing I'll say about veganism, and this is just my pet theory, because I've obviously read a lot about this online. Right. I believe that we've evolved, like the human digestive system, the gut microbiota and the intestinal fauna that are inside us. I think we've evolved over millions of years, and some of us, not everybody, need a specific form of animal protein in the brain. And when you don't get that animal protein after a time, so this is where you can read about this, you can Google this, a lot of vegans go nuts. And as soon as they go back to eating animal protein, like magic, they become sane again. So,
you know, Jay, I don't know if I've told you this before, but I was vegan for a year and then vegetarian for another year. And I never felt bad, but I never felt optimal either. It was weird.
You're off, right?
I was just off. And I mean, I would love morally to be vegan, to be vegetarian, but I just don't feel optimal. And everybody, vegans are going to tell me, oh, well, you're eating the wrong stuff. And bro, I tweaked the hell out of it. But it just, for some reason, for me, as much as I hate to admit it, I've got to eat some meat or I just don't feel optimal.
Well, I mean, again, this is very Googleable. Google is your friend. You know, you can go online and you can read about vegans who go crazy. There's like a giant endowment. There's a bunch of women. I mean, it's crazy because a lot of these women are very well intentioned. You know, they're like PETA people. They're like super into like, you know, doing the right thing, not, you know, violating the sanctity of the soul.
Yeah, and being kind is not a bad thing.
Well, but then they go and they're like 4 or 5 years into it and they have horror stories and you can read about them all online about like what happens to them. They literally feel like they've gone mad.
Like, what do they do, Jay? Give us one horror story.
I mean, I've just read I've read hundreds of women's, you know, stories about how they just can't function. You know, they literally want to get a divorce. They want to break up with their husband. They get everything is a fight. They just can't. There's no like you were saying. They feel off. They don't have like. It's not like a malaise. It's just like that's I think that's the best way to say it. You just feel off. You're never balanced.
You go back to some animal protein. It balances back out.
Now it's like this, and so I believe that there's a nutritional deficiency in the brain, in the synaptic pathways. It's amino acid derived. And as soon as that amino acid is back in the brain and you're being nourished by it, you're like, whoa, I'm human again. You know, it doesn't happen to everybody. There are people that are 30 plus years on this planet, you know, thriving who are vegans.
Right.
But again, there's many that struggle.
Interesting. It really is interesting. It's such a wide, you know, there's so much data out there. It's very hard to wade through it. And I think it's great when you can find a person that has done a lot of study like yourself that you can actually look to for some answers without, you know, trying to look to somebody that's going to, you know, try to make you into a disciple or something.
Yeah. I never demean anyone. I mean, clearly what works for you may not work for someone else. So you always have to self-experiment. I mean, that's just the rule of life. You know, you got to be a data tracker, a data compiler, figure out what works for you. But yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say about veganism is by and large, if you eat a clean diet with animal protein versus a clean diet with vegan protein, the average people between the two, like if you're going to stand there and judge them in public and, you know, they're both there wearing like say tank tops, man or woman, doesn't matter. The vegan's going to be thinner and smaller than the non-vegan. And that's just because, again, the animal protein, the way it's assimilated and digested, there's more bioavailability in the animal protein than there is in the non-animal protein. That's a fact. So, but that doesn't mean that person is less fit or, you know, as impressive. It's just the other person's going to be bigger because they assimilate the bioavailability of the animal protein better than the non-animal protein.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
But I mean, you've seen that, right? Like if you see a vegan, like, you know, like Gerald Clark is a hardcore vegan. And he's like, he used to be like me, you know, he was like a bodybuilder dude, like you too. And
we call it, when I was back in the religious world, you know, I did some time with like Seventh-day Adventists and Sabbatarian type people. We called it that Adventist look because they're all vegetarian and they just get that.
Like really rangy, very thin, not muscular. Well,
yeah, and some, you know, tired looking, pale.
Well, vegetarians are different than vegans, though. Like, if you don't eat any form of protein, then I don't support that. I mean, that's stupid. I mean, again, no offense to anybody, but like your body definitely, there's a biological necessity to have protein. If you're not replenishing amino acids in your system, then you're going to struggle. So if you really, all you do is never eat protein at all, then there's no way. I mean, you're going to be soft. You're going to be skinny fat. Your metabolism's not going to be efficient. You're definitely not going to have focus. Your brain doesn't have amino acids. I mean, there's no way.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, but you can definitely be quote unquote vegan, vegetarian, eating vegan protein and be fine. But I just think that by and large, you're going to be thinner. You might even be healthier. I mean, I don't know, you know, have the internal, you know, stuff going on from digesting meat, because God knows, you know, the meat that sits in your digestive tract is not healthy, you know?
So you think people eat too much meat generally?
I think that majority of people overconsume everything in America, in Western culture. I mean, everything is supersized. Everything is, overconsumed. If you don't fast, you don't have control of your metabolic pathways. I mean, remember, you and I talked about this before. I mean, your food controls your behavior. I mean, your diet, your gut microbiota, they know this for a fact now. They know there's a brain in your gut, right? So when we say trust your gut, that's because there literally is a brain down there. And now through a lot of the studies, they're seeing that brain might be more powerful than this brain.
Interesting.
And it makes sense, right? If you think about it, when you're fat and you're completely out of shape and unconditioned, and you don't exercise, your entire life's behavior is controlled by your stomach. Like literally everything you do is guided by when you're hungry. So I have to eat now. Like everything is overridden in your life, thought pattern wise, when you have to stuff your face. And when your body is like poorly regulated, your gut microbiota is infected. You have a candida and God knows what else growing in there because you just eat uncontrollably. Dude, the power of that stomach telling you, I got to eat, you got to find me some food, overwhelms everything.
And I just got your 5 bullet points just now, Jay. For some reason, it just showed up in my email.
What was the other bullet point I had? I think we hit everything.
Let me see. It just now popped in my email. The Pentagon, Dr. Stephen Greer, the Pentagon UFO program. What I wanted to talk about all dissing exercise, getting your soul right. What does that look like? Eating, training through the holidays.
That's it. I mean, we didn't talk about getting your soul right, but I mean,
we talk about that all the time.
Yeah, I mean that's an overriding, overarching thesis, mythos on this show. So I mean, I think
give us your website once again, Jay.
Yeah, of course. So my main website is trtrevolution.com, and that's where we talk tons about optimization space. To get my books, just email me. I mean, I have websites where you can get them online. If you want to just download the PDF of my testosterone replacement therapy manual, it's trtrevolution.com/PDF. That's free. Just download it. But I mean, the easiest way is just send me an email at jay@trtrevolution.com, and I'll be happy to send you all my stuff.
Absolutely. Well, Jay, it's been a pleasure again. I know that we could go on and on, but one of the first rules of show business is always keep them wanting more.
Absolutely, brother.
And
sorry for the audio difficulties at the first one this week.
Yeah, and then I had those difficulties. It's always one of those, paranormal things. Oh, when we talk about important stuff, this stuff always breaks down. But every now and then, when you're talking about important stuff and things start breaking down, you really got to wonder every now and then.
Well, I mean, I just did a podcast with Rex on Friday and it was huge. We got like almost 80,000 views right now. And like every time Rex spoke, he got hit with gremlins.
Isn't that something?
I mean, it's incredible, man. I mean, people are always laughing at him. Like all of our friends are like, Rex, can you not just get highest broadband? He's like, bro, I have the fastest internet you can get in San Antonio. It's like, there's no possible way it's not.
I asked him the same thing. Rex, you're trying to run on, dial up. He's like, no, man, I got 400 megabits. I'm like, okay, I don't know what the hell's going on then.
No, I know he does. Believe me, he showed me his speed test many times. I mean, it just, it's gremlins, bro. It's gremlins, bro.
That's crazy. Hey, I wonder if it's too hot in grandma's garage.
It might be, man. He might be overloading circuits. So next Monday is Jesus' birthday, bro. So
is next Monday Christmas?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I guess we probably won't.
In celebration, there's going to be a lot of people sitting around the what is it? Chestnuts.
Yeah, on the roasting on the open fire and all that stuff.
I think we should do it, bro. If you're down, let's do it.
Oh, I'd love to do it. And do you?
I'm down.
What happens when it's Christmas and it's Jesus' birthday, quote unquote, and you go to church and you're a Catholic, so you're eating Jesus on Jesus' birthday? Wow. Happy birthday, Jesus.
People do not pontificate that, man. I mean, that's what we should do. I think next Friday.
Jesus Sunday, tastes like chicken.
Bro, on Monday, on Jesus' birthday, we should literally do a roast of the Catholic religion. What do you think?
We could certainly talk about it. Absolutely. And then and all the Protestants think and the Protestants are basically just Catholics that aren't afraid of holy water.
Exactly.
We'll do that. I'm down for it next week. Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I think I might actually on Sunday night, I might just go for research purposes to a midnight mass.
There you go. Check it out.
Seriously, don't tell anybody.
Just keep your soap on a rope, brother.
Dude, so check this out. This just hit me. I got tears in my eyes. I won't mention who, but I'm getting somebody a GoPro for Christmas. I literally may open that as my Christmas Eve gift and literally put that up right up here on the label as hidden and just go and just see what I see, man.
Dude, that would be awesome.
See what kind of cultistic stuff we see.
You know, and we'll close with this. I know we're going overtime, but for some reason, I want to get did you ever go to church?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I went to Catholic church. I mean, I ran out, like I said, at 7 or 8 years old, but then in high school, I was at Catholic high school for 2 years.
Gotcha.
So I had to go, play sports. I had to go.
Yeah. What would happen if I went out? I want to go out and start interviewing people at big churches on Sunday, ask them, do you really think you're filled with original sin? But what would happen if I went like old style street preacher mode on the sidewalk of some big Christian churches talking about plastic Jesus and stuff?
I think it would be amazing. I think you would have to have somebody there videotaping you, because you'd probably end up getting, you'd have to defend yourself a couple times.
Yeah.
I mean, because remember, the show must go on, my friends. So
that's right.
Someone there must be videotaping you.
Yeah, as soon as I get somebody local that can videotape me, I'm going to do that just for the hell of it.
Dude, that would be epic. Literally epic.
And you may actually get through to somebody too. You never know. Well,
I think that would be so cool if me and you did like a Sunday where we could hit like 4 churches.
That would be so awesome.
We'd hit like, at 9 o'clock, go all the way up to like 2 o'clock and just get like 15 minutes in every church. And
Jay, somebody's got to be walking out of that church thinking, that's bullshit, bro.
What am I doing?
Somebody's got to be walking out thinking of it.
That's so funny. That's exactly what we'll be. Hey, real quick. This is Jay and Jeff show, whatever, saying is that bullshit or what? All right, brother. I'll let you go, man. Thank you so much, man. Happy holidays to you and the fam and everybody else in your circle. And I'm sure I'll talk to you real soon.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. For Jay Campbell, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, and we'll see you again on Jesus' birthday.
Yes, you will. You guys take care.